Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of the And Both podcast. My guest this week is Michael Perry, the founder of Maple, a company building tools to help families collaborate better at home. And he also happens to be the first dad we've ever had on the show. Inside, we talk about what it means to be part of what he calls the transition generation of fathers, this moment in time where expectations around partnership and parenting are changing, but the systems and models we have for support haven't quite caught up. He shares what he's learned from thousands of conversations with parents about what's working and what isn't. And we get into how to bring more empathy, participation, and grace into the day-to-day work of family life. We are talking about fatherhood and motherhood as shared leadership, why the language we use at home matters, and how gratitude might just be the thing that helps us all hold it together. It is a great conversation because there's a common language in terms of trying to move forward in a partnership type way. And I think he and I, both from the work that we do separately in our own companies, are trying to really focus on the partnership piece and how people can collaborate and work together better to move the ball forward, and how, we are all trying to move in service of making the world a better place and to raise the next generation of kids and to carry on these legacies through our families. But we're trying to do it not in a, this is your column and this is my column, but how do we collaborate and work together on this? So yes, Michael is the first dad that we've had on the show. And I think it's really cool. And I think it's really timely that we have a voice that represents somebody that hasn't been on the show before. And that perspective is new and refreshing and also helpful. I think that the impetus for creating this podcast was around keeping ourselves on the map and doing the things that we need to do to take care of ourselves and what that looks like from a lot of different angles. And I think it's really important when we can see or share other perspectives with people and get their side of the equation, that helps the conversation move forward. And so without further ado, here's Michael. Welcome to And Both, a podcast about what it really looks like to put yourself on the list while raising kids and doing all the other things life asks of you. I'm your host, Ashley Blackington, and on this show, you'll hear conversations with moms who are figuring it out in their own ways, plus a few solo episodes from me from time to time. It's not about having all the answers, it's about sharing stories, learning from each other, and knowing we don't have to choose between either or when we're living in the middle of and both. Let's get into today's episode. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the And Both podcast. My guest today is Michael Perry, the first male-identifying guest that we have had on the show in over 100 episodes now. Welcome.
Thank you so much I'm honored to be the first, and I'm determined to not be the last, as we've discussed. So I'm honored to be here.
Yes. You and I met a little while back, and then just for the context of everybody, last week, was it last week? I feel like it was a month ago, but it was also last week. It feels like it.
Yeah.
You hosted a dinner in New York, and I told you that you were going to be the only male guest on, and you now are going to source.
Yes. I'm determined. And I'm going to bring you so many that all of a sudden you're going to have to carve out like the Michael Perry intro, like collection of great men and fathers that come on this show.
You know what? I'm ready for it. I'm
okay.
All about it.
Good.
I think there's a lot of conversations that we have on this show that could only benefit people to have them across the aisle, we'll call this, across the parenting experience aisle. So before we get started, tell everybody a little bit about you and what you want them to know, and then we'll get into it.
Well, the most important thing that I want them to know is that I'm a father, because I want to just put that out there that I'm a proud dad. I was telling somebody this morning at my gym that I have 3 titles: father, husband, founder, and certainly they are in that order of importance. So I'm a dad to 2 sons who are the light of my life, the purpose of my life, Leander and Solomon, who I hope someday get to go back and listen to these podcasts and realize that they've always been my top priority. Their mother, my lovely wife, Alex, has been my partner for almost 20 years and my co-founder to life. And we live here in Southern California, Santa Barbara, California, where we were raising our 2 boys. And I've been fortunate and blessed with the support of my family to have my 4th company, which I now have the honor of running from this seat here in Santa Barbara called Maple. And we build technology that we really believe lift families up to do their life's work collaboratively, to care for their children in concert, to work asynchronously on sharing household responsibilities, and to be a team at home.
Yay. Collaboration. It's a good
It's
thing.
it's the thing. It's the thing.
It's the thing that everyone wants, but it's so hard to do in real time.
It is. It's crazy hard. It's that statement in a lot of ways that inspired the birth of the company, is recognizing that there just hasn't been great tooling, and the makeup of what homes look like and operate have just changed so drastically. And it's been impossible for the world to keep up with. And it's because it just hasn't gotten the attention that it's deserved. And as a result of that, we now have a lot of really frustrated relationships, families, households that are hanging on by a thread, because you have two people who are working. In most households, it's not just like, mom's barefoot pregnant in the kitchen and dad's out there working in a factory. Like, that era is over. You have two people actively in the workforce, and then kids aren't just going outside and playing anymore. They're signed up for like 1,000 extracurricular activities. And so houses face just logistical hell. And we've just tried to jam the old into the current, and it just doesn't work. And I really firmly don't believe that there's any malintent from partners. And I don't think that there's a lack of care from partners. I think that we're living through very complex times without the right level of support and systems to get them through it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. When you started, what was the kickoff to Maple? Because you do speak about a specific event. I don't know if it's a specific event or like a collection of events that like led to that. So
I think it was a series of awakening moments. I think that the first critical moment was having this really special moment of holding my son for the first time. And I think it's one of the most important moments of my life. It actually is my favorite moment of my life. And the reason being is that I think for so many young people, myself included, they go through their 20s, oftentimes their 30s, oftentimes their 40s, and sometimes throughout their whole life, trying to understand what is their purpose here on earth? What should they be doing with their time here on earth? And they never are at peace with that answer. And for me, the moment I held my son, I was completely at peace and inspired by really genuinely believing that my purpose, and I actually have come to realize all of our purpose is to care for our family. Every other species, scientifically, when you take away the social constructs of money, currency, homes, everything else, is to keep their species alive and well. And when you pull the ego away and just strip down to the bare bones, my job is to make sure that my sons are alive and well. That is my current most important job. And so I think having that made me realize that my family was my life's work. That kind of parlayed into, me going back to my corporate job at Shopify, which used to be my life's work. And not only not feeling as connected to founders as I once did, but really actually not being involved at the right level in my own home that I needed to be and that I wanted to be. My wife was at home with a newborn child. She was running the show. She was trying to, keep me up to date on doctor's appointments, all these things. We were having a very hard time after being in a relationship for 13 years, having a really hard time being in lockstep about what was needing to go on in our home. Our relationship a relationship for any couple drastically changes once they have a child. They go from being two people living under one household, ideally romantically tied together, to like, you're now co-founders. You're working together for that life's work. And I just felt like, as a technologist, I turned to find something that might be able to solve this, and realized that the world had bucketed parents into consumers. And consumer products are radically different than personal software or enterprise software. And what we really needed was enterprise level, cloud, collaborative, asynchronous software that wasn't a gimmick or wasn't a toy, but was like the real deal to allow for us to operate at the highest level. And so I took it upon myself to leave my what was dream job at Shopify and to really dedicate my life to building the tooling of the future to allow for parents to be on the same page and to work together and have the same quality tools that they have in the workforce as they have in the home force. And I feel good about where we're at so far and really excited about the progress we made and most inspired about what the future might look like.
Yeah. I echo that a lot. That was one of those things when, trying in my own family is trying to figure stuff out from the beginning. What does this all look like? I took definitely a more paper-based
Hmm.
approach. Like that's so Dovetail started as a paper-based company because it was
Yeah.
like everything centered around what was happening inside of our house because the kids were so little.
Yeah.
We didn't have all of those influences of activities going on, scheduling, all of those things, and then eventually transitioned to more of an electronic piece. But the other part of that was that seeing people that were using Asana, Trello, Notion, all of
Yep.
those platforms that were familiar with enterprise software like
Yep.
yourself, like in the office and things like that, but that there's not a human element to that. It turns that turns the person into a project and
Yep.
takes them out of it. Which I mean, for kids, like there's not a 2-year-old that's like, hey, remember to get this at the store. They're not necessarily going to be integrated in it in that regard, but that it's not quite the match that you need it to be. And so that's what I love about this notion of like, we have all the right parts and pieces. Can we Frankenstein something together to make it work? Yes. But why not? Why not start from scratch and build the thing that we
Right.
actually need and get out of the lab?
Yeah, it's more than just because again, part of the inspiration was, all the things you just said. When you start talking to parents, we've had a lot of people leave Notion or Asana for us, and they're really good products, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's just that they're designed for the workspace, and like the roadmap is geared towards making work features better and project management better. Notion, to my knowledge, I just went to their conference. Unless they pivot back into households, they're not building a meal planner,
Yeah.
and they're not their customer isn't mom and dad. Their customer is a Fortune 500 company,
Mm-hmm.
and certainly Asana's in the same bucket, right? And so I think that the problem is in a lot of ways is that people haven't prioritized parents as the customer. They prioritize them to buy diapers. They prioritize them to buy consumer packaged goods. They prioritize, Procter and Gamble loves parents. It's just that software companies, and I think that the similarities of small business technology for a long time, no one wanted to touch SMB because SMB is tough. They don't spend a lot of money. They have high churn. Consumer is really hard. And so I think parents have just gotten really, really, really overlooked. And so roadmaps can't be geared towards them. Products can't be specialized for them. Like the concert of which software can intermingle and work together, they haven't been a priority for. And I just love this era of which we're in, which is, and our take has always been, listen, Maple may not be right for your family. And maybe software isn't right for your family. Like go to paper and pen, go to whiteboards, whatever it is. Our hope is that above anything else, that we get higher participation. We see a shift in participation at home because we think that participation at home actually is what creates happier homes, which the children benefit from. And that we just want to have our hat in the mix as being one of the more innovative companies to lead in a solution offering that people want to build harmony with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I agreed all around. I think it's really interesting that one of the things that I noticed about when you get into the project-based software is that families are not projects, right? Like you
No.
have to go to the grocery store every week. So if you're trying to use software that's not designed for this cyclical living that we're doing, then you're going to quickly get into a space of I'm trying to do something, but this thing doesn't fit. And how do I make it work? Like I unfortunately have to go to the grocery store every week.
Yep.
And we have to feed people and we have to do the activities and things happen in seasons. So it is all brand new and very, very cool.
I think that what you said is really important, by the way. Like we have something called folders and we are debating changing the name, and like projects has come up, and like we intentionally don't call it projects because like I just don't think it feels very family.
Yeah.
Like there's something about, like, to your point, like my family's folder for food and recipes and meal planning, that's not a project, right? My son's birthday party, maybe that's a project, but like I think that projects feel very corporate and they feel very like short term versus like this permanent ownership of something and like doing it for your family. And we do try to bring some humanization to our product and personality to our product that feels very relatable. So, anyways, I agree with what you're saying wholeheartedly. Is I guess my roundabout point.
So how I will say that given that this podcast has featured women up until today, a lot of the conversations that I've had on here has been people saying, well, there's that disconnection in communication, but there's also a disconnection in interests. It's like, well, you're better at this. Well, you guys have Maple, I will shout this from the rooftop. Maple has a family email address, which,
yes,
I mean, yes, 1,000 times yes, highlight stars all around it. But what do you say to the people who are like, this sounds like a really great product. This is what I want for the direction for my family, but my partner is just not interested, seemingly not interested.
This is always the hardest. So I've been asked this question a lot, right? Because most podcasts I go on in the family technology space, the host of the podcast is someone who identifies as a mother. And they always say, how do I get my husband to use this? How do I get my husband to care? Can I answer this in kind of 3 parts, if that's okay? I just don't want it to be overly long, but I've spent a lot of time thinking about this. So part number 1 is, unfortunately, not everybody is going to be great at everything that they do, right? Some people need to work on their marriage, and software will not fix that. Just won't, right? If you and your husband or you and your wife are having communication issues, maybe Maple supports in that, but like you have to be willing to do the heavy lifting. If you and your wife or you and your husband are having a hard time establishing a work balance, Maple will support fixing that, but you have to be committed to wanting to fix that. Maple will absolutely help create visibility in the home, but you have to want to digest that information and you have to want to be empathetic to what's going on in the other. So there's a want piece to that pie that not everybody's going to want it, right? Like the reality of it is that relationships don't work out, relationships break down. And my advice to anybody, as someone who now has spoken to thousands of parents over a 5-year period, is that I'm 19 years into my own relationship. And I think a lot of people, if they followed me on social media, would say, oh my God, your little relationship in life is perfect. I feel very proud of my marriage. I work really hard at my marriage. I work really, 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 really hard to make sure that my wife and my children are the priority. And I know that my wife works really, really hard at trying to meet me where I need to be at or for her to be at as well. So the baseline, first, number 1 is people got to work really hard in their marriage. And I think that part gets overlooked and people think software is going to solve that. Software makes it easier to solve that, but you still have to want to work really hard. The second piece of it is that, and I don't want to make any excuses for anyone who is not stepping up, because I think that this comes out the wrong way. But I think we're living, and I write about this a lot, I think we're living through what will be defined as the transition generation of parents. If you look at the 2 storylines of motherhood and fatherhood, they look really different leading up to 2025. Your mother did a little bit more than your grandmother may have been home all the time with the kids. Your mother may have been the first one in her family to have a corporate job. You're the first one to be an entrepreneur. But you had these leading by example kind of situations. And we live in a sea right now, a world, and thanks be to God for this, of incredibly strong women. I think that women have the best role models out there. I don't have a daughter, but I don't have a good male that I can point my sons to directionally and be like him. There's a lot of just bad men out there right now, running the world for that matter. And so I think that what we're seeing is a generation of fathers their fathers never changed a diaper. Their fathers, they were going to work, come home. Dads have been traditionally the same for basically ever. And so now you're expecting this generation of dads to make this huge jump of being both in the workforce and now trying to figure out how to balance life at home, how to participate better at home, how to caregive better at home. And they haven't had the role model piece that has really been this guiding light to be like, this is how you have it. This is how you do it. I think that that's part of the problem. And I think that like their sons are likely the future fathers out there are going to be insanely great because they're seeing a different watermark that's been set, even if it's not meeting where their wife wants them to be right now. They're hopefully seeing a bit of a different watermark that they get to improve against. And I really do believe that Maple as a company, this is where I do believe it, we get to heavily participate in shifting that watermark, right? We get to be way more vocal as a company. We get to build software and do things that we see in our data a huge spike in participation at home. And so I think the hard part really is that there's some of those people in that first bucket who just aren't participating in the transition because they're seeing how their fathers operated. And instead of saying that wasn't good enough or the world's changed, they're saying this is how it's supposed to be. And they're going to be unfortunately seen very archaically as a practitioner, because I think parenting is a craft of doing things an old school way and not being a new school father, you know? And that's the easiest way that like I can break those two things down is that I don't like to use the word a lost cause because you can always teach an old dog new tricks, but you just have this bucket of people who are having a really hard time with the transition. You have a bucket of people who are participating in the transition. And then you have a bucket of fathers who are leading the transition. And that's hard. Whereas like I think that women right now are in a far more common bond spot with, of course, there's always a minority now who are, I think, pulling women back. But the majority of women are linking arms and pushing motherhood and professionalism and sports and executive roles. And they're pushing the narrative of motherhood forward in a really positive way. But they're the majority. And so I just find that we are just living through this really, really wild transition time of what fatherhood looks like, specifically fatherhood.
Yeah, I think that it's one of those things where in a vacuum, nothing would change. But when you have these technology companies that come in, when you have podcasts that people can listen to in the comfort of their vehicle driving to and from work, that might, make a light go off and say, oh, wait a minute, what about this? If it doesn't feel like that drop off is so sharp, then that cracks open the door to say, okay, you know what, this is something that I maybe want to think about. This is maybe something that I think would be better. I think my overwhelming feeling about the father participation in home and collaboration is that more men actually do want to do this.
They do, for sure.
It's that women are raised, cultured, all of these things to learn these skills earlier and quicker and to be experts in them. And it creates no on-ramp for men.
That's right. That's what I'm saying. Is that I think that there's just a group where the majority, I think, are in that transition bucket. They're on-ramping themselves. They're on-ramping themselves. I think most men want to participate. We see it in our data. Then there's a very small cohort of men who have fully on-ramped. They're through the transition. And then there's a very small cohort of people who just won't get on the ramp. I think the majority of men care a lot and that they haven't had, to your point, the early access points to learn how to multitask, learn how to be everybody's everything. Moms are everybody's everything. They're trained to be everybody's everything, right? The daughter is the helper at home who then becomes the runner of the home, who also is pushing, getting the best grades at school, who's also having, she's fighting for her career. It's been a way fucking harder road, harder road. The expectations are set way earlier on, right? You'd be living under a rock to think otherwise. I just think that like the benefit, and this is maybe the controversial point, even though the responsibility has been unfairly bestowed upon somebody, they've had a lifetime of coaching.
And a culture around it.
Yeah. Now men have been in a completely different culture with no coaching. And now they're in this bucket of like, well, no, we need you to step up and you should just know how to do all this because their partner has already known how to do all this. And I think that bucket, that transition, those men, God bless them, are hopefully building and shaping greater men because they're now getting to be the coach to this next generation of men. And I really do feel that way. And I think that I actually feel really sad for the transition bucket in some way because I think that they are trying real. And now I've become a spokesperson for this. I think they're trying really, really, really hard. The conversations I have with fathers privately is heartbreaking because there are people out there pushing this narrative that they're just not good enough. They're not trying hard enough. And I just don't think that that's the case. I think that we're in this transition of growth. Society is in this transition of growth. And my hope is that my sons are my replacement. They're going to be better husbands, better fathers than I am. And I'm trying to teach them everything I know so that they can be.
Mm-hmm. I feel like what's happening right now in the world is this sort of burn it all down. I mean, in a lot of ways, but we're just talking about fatherhood here. In this burn it all down, it's that the like you're saying, the inside of how we feel and what we want to do and what's happening in our own homes does not match the things that we see on the news and the things that we hear and all of this stuff. And there's such a disconnection, right? Like to your point, like women are in groups and they're in community where we are all fighting the same fight. Whether it's a stay-at-home mom or whatever. Just the whole labeling of mothers thing is problematic all on its own, but that's not going to go anywhere anytime soon. But that like culturally, we're running our own current in that way. And then there's like this giant tanker ship of women who are like, we're going that direction. We all know which direction we want to go. We might, veer off course a little bit. We might feel like, oh, is this really what we want? Men are out here in rowboats going, shit, I don't know. Do I go that way? Do I go that way?
Totally. That is such an insanely great example. Like, that is exactly what's happening. And I think that part of the problem is, and I really feel this way, I really deeply feel this way, is that my wife and I never talk about motherhood or fatherhood. We talk about parenting. And I think that we have done this wonderful job segmenting mothers and fathers. And we've done this wonderful job of like not thinking about it as a unified craft, unified co-founder, unified. It's that like moms deserve better. Dads should be doing more. Like it needs to be brought down to the level of like, what do we need to be doing for our kids? And like, how are we doing it together? I just think it turns the temperature down in the room so hardcore, right?
Yeah.
My wife and I never talk about, I never can imagine looking at my wife be like, you need to be a better mother. What? She'd be like, who do you think you're talking to?
Excuse me?
Yeah. But imagine how it feels for a generation of men being told you need to be a better father.
Well, it's also like, it's like being told you need to go next week for NFL tryouts and you've never thrown a football before.
That's what I'm saying. It's like,
it's the same.
These guys are awesome. They're awesome. They're trying their fucking hardest. Really. I'm going to say on behalf of all of them, because I just don't think that there's something that's going on right now, which I don't agree with, which is like there's a lack of voices amongst men to say, I am trying. And again, there's a bucket of people who just aren't trying. And there's a bucket of people who figured it out. But the majority of fathers right now sit in this middle bucket, which is I'm trying to hold on to my job and I'm trying to learn all these new skills and I'm trying to be a good partner and I'm trying to keep up and it's a lot of and they're being met with, you're not doing a good enough job. You're not enough at a social level, right? Like if you read the content that's online, it's not healthy. It's not good. And it breaks my heart for these guys because, again, I think their children are going to be great. I think their children are going to be stars. I think the next wave of men are going to be awesome. I really hope for that. But I feel really bad for the guys out there who are in the trenches and they're trying to show up and they're trying to be what women have always been, which is everybody's everything.
Yeah.
And it's hard. And I think it creates great empathy for your partner. But it's really hard when you're trying every single day and all you're reading is they're not showing up enough. It's not fair for, it's a lot of negative press. And I think you're so right, which is like these dudes are in rowboats. They are in rowboats and it's not just that they're not knowing directionally where they're going. Imagine being in a rowboat and it's a typhoon.
Yeah.
It's
with
a
no snacks.
thunderstorm. It's a storm out there and it's 20-foot waves and you're holding on for dear life and you're like, get me to land, right?
And someone's like, you're not rowing hard enough.
And you're not rowing hard enough. Why aren't you rowing hard enough? It's
You're
like,
going the wrong way.
that's what's going, and they're just like sitting there and they don't know where they're going, but they're just trying. And it's like, that's how I would describe fatherhood today, which is like, it's trying. And, I think what I find really passionate is like, not being a spokesperson for this because that's ridiculous, but being a participant in the conversation, being a participant in improving life at home, and also fighting for, I think, better co-founder relationship at home, right? Because like, I do think this narrative of like, hey, hold on for a second, let's pause. Has things been fair for the last 3 million years? Probably not. Have things been intensely hard on mom the last 30 years? 1000%. Have things been intensely hard on mom the last decade? All the data is there. We already know it's all true. No one is trying to strip that away, discount that, ignore that. No one's trying to overlook that. Are these guys trying to catch up? Is the majority trying really hard to, is the light bulbs finally going on like, okay, wait, actually, this isn't good. We need to try. We need to catch up. Yeah, I think so. And like, I think that your children are going to be the beneficiaries of collaborative participation, but I don't think that your children are going to benefit from the world talking about how your dad was a fuck up.
Yeah.
I don't think that your children benefit from mom complaining that dad's not good enough, right? When he's trying super hard and he's trying to set a new watermark for his own children of what a good partner looks like. So I have a really big soft spot right now for it. And I think it's become very like faux pas to talk about in some weird way. But I just really hope that for the listeners that are mothers, I think that quietly your husband's probably struggling. And he may not even have the courage to speak up. He probably doesn't have the courage to speak up in his marriage that he's struggling.
And also the language around how to start that conversation.
I could not agree with that point so much more. Because there is a movement. It's like a burn the boats down movement. It's like, divorce your husband. He's not good enough. It's like, wait a second here. Time out. I always think it comes down to what can we be doing better as a team? And I think that there's vulnerability of opening up the door to say, I'm struggling here. Do you think that you could help me here? Do you think that we can elevate our relationship here? Versus, you're not doing this. You're not doing this. You're not good at this. You're not, it's like, no one wants to hear that. No one's going to respond. No one's going to respond positive to that. I went into the kitchen and told my wife, she's like I said, terrible wife, terrible mother. I need your help. She's going to shut down. The same way if she walked in my office right now and said, you're not showing up for your kids and I'm trying my hardest. I'd be like, what are you talking? I'd be gutted, right?
Yeah.
And so I think we've lost in this whole process, this whole fired up process. We've turned the temperature up so high because we're all kind of drowning a little bit that we've created enemies out of each other versus realizing that we walked down the aisle together to be a team. And we shouldn't lose sight of that we wanted to build a relationship together. And we should try to operate with a little bit more grace inside of our homes. I really believe that right now.
Agreed. Today's episode is brought to you by Dovetail, the app that's changing the way families navigate caregiving. If you're juggling your kids' schedules, checking in on your parents, and trying to manage your own needs, Dovetail is made for you. I built Dovetail as a clinician and caregiver who saw firsthand how overwhelming this role can be and how much lighter it feels when the care is shared. Download Dovetail now on iOS, Google Play, coming soon. I always think about when I talk about this stuff so my oldest, when she was born, I was working full time and then I went back in and worked on the weekends because childcare is, a thing. And I went back when she was 12 weeks old. So my husband worked Monday through Friday and I worked Saturday, Sunday. And I was in a hospital. So I was seeing patients all day long. So I left the house at 7:30, was in the hospital at 8, worked till 4:30. And I remember the first day I went back, there was 2 other women that had been out on maternity leave. And they came in and they were like all done with the day before the day had even started. And I was like, what's going on? It's hard. Like to leave your baby for the first time for more than 12 seconds is like hot poker to the eye, right? And they were like, I couldn't get everything all lined up this morning before I left the house. And I was like, what are you talking about? And they were like, getting all of the bottles prepped and the clothes prepped and the blah, blah, blah. And they're like, did you do that? And I was like, no. I left my house. Like at the very basic level, we have to understand that like we are married to other humans who bathe themselves and feed themselves and dress themselves. And if I
Capable.
don't, yeah, who are capable, right? Like we bought a house together. He has a job. Like he has gotten himself to the age of life that he's at then. If I do all of that, I cut off at the legs the opportunity for him to learn how to do this stuff. Did you put a diaper on backwards? Me too. Did you like put the kid in the thing and then it didn't fit or, whatever? Yeah, me too. But like moms have I feel like this is one of those things where we get a lot of leeway. Outwardly, we're supposed to look like we know what we're doing, but inside of our
Hmm.
own homes, we have
Hmm.
this opportunity where you're like, oh shit, I didn't do that. Whoops, like my bad. But I'm still doing a really great job because I'm a mom and I'm like doing all the things.
Right.
Whereas dads, it's like there's so much scrutiny in their learning process that these people that were healthcare practitioners who watch people learn how to do things all day long, post surgery and accident and illness and all of that stuff, were like, he just can't. And I was like, well, how? How do you know that? Why don't you give him the opportunity to do that?
I mean, yeah, I hear this story.
It's crazy.
Honestly, I'm 5 years into this journey, and the things that I hear are also heartbreaking, right?
Yeah.
Because we're so flawed at a systematic level. It's just so insane. Like the system is failing us. Our systems at home are failing us. The lack of trust in our relationship is failing us. It doesn't have to be this way across the board.
Mm-hmm.
It just doesn't have to be this way. And your take on these things is exactly right, which is like, hey, yo, before you, I could feed myself. I understand how water and soap work. I can clean myself. Like, we're not
Do you do
complete
it the same
dummies.
way? Right. But like, do you
Yeah.
do it the same way? And that's the problem. And I will 100% own my own stuff on that. It's like, if you're home, like for 12 weeks, I was home with our daughter. I
Hey,
had a system,
yeah.
right? And he didn't, because when I was home and he was home on the weekends and then I was gone and I was like, listen, you gotta sort this out. However
Yeah.
you feed, bathe, clothe, whatever you want to do,
That's on you.
that's on you.
Also, it's good for your kids to have some like resilience to change. Like I just like I had this conversation with somebody near and dear to me recently, which is like, I hate to break it to you. Like there is not a one size fits all to parenting.
Mm-hmm.
You can read every book you want under the sun. You can take every Dr. Becky course. You can do everything that you want to do. But at the end of the day, your job is to adapt to what your children's needs are and to bring them along for the ride. You have a hard headed kid. My two boys are radically different,
Yeah.
right? It's like, I don't know, maybe the way that my wife bathed 5 years ago is different. Maybe I caused it. Maybe I caused the problem. But like, it's just so ridiculous to think that like it has to be the same. It has to be this way. If that was the case, we'd all turn out net the same.
Mm-hmm.
It just doesn't work like that. Life does not work like that. I like my kids dealing with some adversity. If it's the food I prepare them is different, as early and often as possible to show them that like life is full of mystery. Life is marvelous. Like difference is good. I think that part of the problem with this whole entire goddamn world is we think everyone should look the same, be the same, talk the same, think the same. It's your way or the highway. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that if parents just respected the fact, if people respected the fact that it's good to have an opinion, it's better to have it loosely held.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that you can't die on every hill. You have to pick the hill. And everyone's trying to be
Exactly.
on every hill all the time.
I don't know, man. I'm not that smart, and I'm certainly not that wise. I haven't had enough life to claim that I feel confident in either IQ, EQ, or wisdom. But I just think that people just need to soften up, ease up, give each other grace, live a life of empathy, default to good intent,
Mm-hmm.
and just try really hard to recognize that like everyone is fighting individual wars. It's so much better to fight wars together. It's
Mm-hmm.
so much better to link arms than it is to go at it alone. It's so much better to be happy with one another or to feel purposeful with one another or to feel accomplished with one another than to be disappointed with each other, angry at each other. Like it's so much better to lean into this optimistic lens And I just like, I have spoken, like I said, to so many parents, and they're frustrated and angry, and I get it and I feel it. And they want their partner to show up and behave in some way. And it's like, they may not know how to show up and behave in that way. Maybe they want you to show up and behave in a certain way. It's like we're all just trying the best that we can. And I just think that like if we had open conversations inside of our homes about our shortcomings, about the things that we're good at, and stopped having these radical expectations, everyone would just be happier.
Mm-hmm.
It's possible.
Yeah, I mean, I think too also that the part of the reckoning that you're talking about in the improvement on the next generation is I do think that when these conversations come up, that we are more likely to have those conversations, not necessarily as like a family chat, but when you have those conversations around your kids, not every nitty-gritty detail, but modeling that. Because I read somewhere, this is when my kids were very, very little, that we as parents show our kids conflict, like when we have a disagreement with our spouse, but we very rarely show our kids how you come together and have conversation and resolve it. Because we have the blow up, right? Like you're talking, the temperature's hot. You're like, listen, you didn't get this and this is whatever. And we're late here and the dog ate the trash and all of this stuff.
Yep.
But then the kids go to bed. The kitchen gets cleaned up. The temperature goes down. And now you're like, okay, let's talk about this. But we rob our children of seeing that in action.
Yep.
Depends on what you're arguing about, but we rob our children of that. And I feel like that's a really big missing link for people in homes and going forward in the community, because we can show people how to fight. I mean, flip on Instagram. You can watch people fight all day long about nothing or like major things, but people they don't make TikTok reels about how to resolve conflict.
No, they do not.
Nobody watches it.
Why would they? No one would watch it. I mean, I think that, one of the things that I always find to be fascinating is the very few people who believe that they're lucky to say, I never saw my parents fight in front of us. Because what that does for me in my mind is that they set this very false expectation of what their own marriage should look like. Because they never saw their parents have a conflict or a disagreement. Obviously, I don't believe in yelling at each other, having profanity with each other, hitting each other. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying to you is, I think children not seeing, to your exact point, parents working through things sets the tone of unrealistic relationships in the future. Full stop. And the one thing that I now have a 6-year-old who's in first grade, and last year he started dealing with, for the first time, friendship conflicts. And I just said to him the same thing I say to a 40-year-old. Relationships are really hard. You got to work super hard at them, and you got to sit down and you got to tell that person that you don't like this, or that you need to work through it, or how it makes you feel. But like having this expectation that it's never going to happen, doesn't happen. Everyone is in harmony. Everyone is in sync. You're setting yourself up for a world of disappointment, right? And when we started this conversation, it was, how do I get my husband to care? It's like, I don't know. But have you had a sit down conversation with your husband? Have you tried to talk through it? Because usually a conversation can go a really long way. No one's reading each other's mind, and no one knows how to just instantaneously turn on a flip switch of being somebody that they aren't programmatically dialed into being. And I don't know. I'm very boring, actually, because like I really don't think that life is crazy complex. I think that we have very complex expectations. And I don't think it's necessary, fair, or right. I think it's that we're all super flawed and we're all super great. And it's about recognizing what those things are and being at peace and accepting and leaning in to both of those buckets.
I think it's what we were talking, this was last week, and we were talking about getting married, and it was someone that we were out with, her daughter's getting married. And I said, marriage and relationships is basically 3 arguments.
I love that.
With like different Halloween costumes on, right? It's like, if you distill it all down, basically in any relationship, you have like 3 arguments: appreciation, acknowledgement, or some like dealer's choice, right? Like that's got to be something that's tied to like your baggage, their baggage. Everyone's got baggage.
Yeah.
But I feel like you can go a long way to saying, hey, wait a minute. is this about you not feeling like what you're trying to say is being acknowledged? You don't feel like I don't feel like the thing that I'm doing is appreciated, all of that. If we, like you said, if we make things simple
Yep.
and, you take that, what is the writing? It's like, and then, like you keep asking the questions all the way down to the point. If we do that, that's a great way. I mean, you can put an iceberg on top of an argument that way.
Hmm. I mean, I think you're not going to escape it. I just think that like here's like the really simple truth about raising children, marriage, all of these things. I think about this shit all the time. We have roughly 9 billion people on this planet. I feel pretty confident that 8.5 billion people would trade everything that they have to be me. Everything. And there's 8.5 billion people that trade everything that they have to be you, right? You live in a comfortable, beautiful home. You have somebody who deeply cares about you. You have children who are healthy. There's so many people who wish that they were you, who go to night and praying and begging whatever God they believe in for everything that you have, who want it so badly they would crawl over glass for it. And it's the things that we have, the things that we disrespect, in my personal opinion, that 8.5 billion people on this earth would literally die for.
Mm-hmm.
Is my wife perfect? In my eyes, she's pretty damn close. But like, do I know that there's a lot of women out there who won't cuddle up to their husband at the end of the night? Do I know there's a lot of women out there who won't put up with my shit? For sure. So do I accept all the other things that I have stupid complaints about? Absolutely. Are my children walking home safely? Yeah. Are they living in a house safely? Yeah. So I think that like we keep moving the goalpost of life, right? We keep wanting these things that like we think matter deeply. Most people who are listening to this podcast have everything that they need right now that everybody else on earth would give everything up for. That is so insane to me. That is so insane to me that I've just taken this completely different, softer approach of life that I know that I'm lucky as fuck.
Mm-hmm. And also having that lens to look out onto the world of like, yes, it's easy to find some of those 8.5 billion people. And okay, because you sit in this position, what does that mean? What are you going to do differently, right? Like, are you going to be involved in collaboratively parenting and partnering? Are you
Yeah.
going to be involved in helping create a different way forward for people and helping create options? Like, it's taking that opportunity and using it in a way that, when your sons get older and if they decide to have kids, they're like, here's what we do. I've had collaboration modeled for me. I have a platform that I can use. I can have also, like, let's not glance over the social emotional language and learning that is a massive part of this generation shift. Like my younger two are 4 and 6, and they're in the backseat of the car going, I really didn't like it when you said that thing to me the other day because it made me feel this way. And I'm like, what in God's green earth? I mean, it's amazing to hear, but you're like,
You're doing it.
yeah, my
You're
brother
doing
and
it.
I, we were in the backseat punching each other.
Yeah, you're
You
doing
know?
it. I just think that like, I don't know. I have found that gratitude is the greatest compass. I'm going to keep saying this story. I had a doctor tell me I was never going to be a dad. Most of the people who are listening to this, I shouldn't say most. I don't want to make assumptions, but the reality is one out of 3 couples have some sort of reproductive challenge, right? 1 out of 8 people individually have a problem. And I was so thankful to get to change diapers. I never one time, I'm very proud of this. I never one time complained about changing a diaper because every time I changed a diaper, I kept reminding myself at 4 o'clock in the morning, someone told me I was never going to have this. So again, talking about the 8.5 billion people, there are people right now who would give literally anything, who've been told the worst news. They've had miscarriages, loss, sadness. They've had everything that you can ever imagine, devastation beyond feeling and belief. And while you're changing a diaper and you're miserable about it because you're exhausted, there is somebody so badly that would take your spot in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
Heartbeat, right? You're complaining that your husband doesn't wash the dishes. There's widows out there who would just love to see their husband walking in the door. You're pissed off that your husband isn't checking the family calendar. There's husbands right now who are literally dying of cancer. Like there's so much shit going on in this world that we are angry about these little things that the second something major took place, they would get replaced instantly. They would
Yeah.
get replaced instantly, right? You're angry your kids are throwing Hot Wheels at each other. Mm. Listen, something happened to your kids, you would be missing. And when they grow up and they leave your house, you're gonna miss those Hot Wheels on the floor.
Yeah.
I just think we have like this so warped lens. Like it just doesn't matter that much. But like the real things that do matter just get overlooked.
Mm-hmm. I think too, like in that, agree wholeheartedly, also have to hold some space in there to be like, it's okay to not enjoy the Hot Wheels. I think that's
Totally.
you get the phenomenon at the grocery store, the old lady who's like, just enjoy every second. And you're like, okay, generally all the seconds, but like the one where my kid's laying on the floor because they can't have the like sugar bottle pop thing on the bottom shelf. Like this one, I'm just gonna like.
I think that it's like that it's that, and I don't like to reference Steve Jobs because he turned out to be a terrible father. I'm sorry, terrible father to his eldest child. But I always loved how he said, if you look in the mirror enough days in a row and you're unhappy, you got to change it. The question isn't about not being upset in the moment. It's that, are there enough days in a row where you're grateful for it?
Yeah.
Right. So like, there's days where I'm like, oh my God. Like last night, I was solo parenting with my kids. My wife was volunteering at Girls Inc. My kids were off the wall. And I had to like really pull myself back. I had to be like, you know what? I'm out right now with my 4-year-old and 6-year-old. We're having cheeseburgers. I don't give a shit about the meltdowns, right? Like, we're going to work through it. We're going to get back on it. But, I think it's recognizing in that moment that I was not in a good mood. I was not in a good headspace. I was not feeling grateful for it. I wanted them to just be good little boys. And it's like, they're 4 and 6 and they're tired. It's the end of the day. Like, how can I show up a little bit differently? But I strive for at least stringing days of gratitude or stringing moments of gratitude together. And I strive for gratitude as a tool when things aren't going to my liking, when I'm burnt out on it, when I'm tired of it, when I'm, wishing someone would behave differently, do something differently, participate differently. I just try to use gratitude as a tool, which is more powerful than software, to allow for me to be more present in the moment.
So when one of the things that we talk about on the show is about navigating care of self alongside, normally it's motherhood, but alongside fatherhood, what does it look like for you to take care of you and the things that are just for you alongside this journey of parenting and all of that?
Oh man. I mean, I think there are seasons for everything. I want to preference that because I want to first acknowledge that I haven't always been really great at taking care of myself. I've struggled with mental health the last 2 years off and on. I've dealt with it all, right? And there's been obviously periods of neglect, not doing anything physical. Building a company is really, really hard. Being a father is really, really hard. Being a decent, I really want to be good husband it's really hard. And I've tried to recognize that actually in some way for me to be good at work, be good to my sons and be good to my wife, I have to invest in self-care. Because usually where there's a breakdown in those things is when it's like, I'm just not the best version of myself. So, I try to go surfing at least once or twice a week. I try to work out 2 or 3 times a week. I worked out today at 5:30 a.m. My days are not what most people would want. I think that that's just the honest answer. Today, as an example, I was up at 5:30. I worked out. I was home by 7:30. I took my son to school. I took a shower. I went to my desk. I worked. Now, obviously, having this lovely chat with you, working until I have to go pick my son up from school, taking my son to surf practice, taking my family out to dinner, coming home. I will do shower time and bath time with my boys. And then I'll sit back at my desk and work until 9 or 10 o'clock at night. I did that yesterday too. And that means that like a lot of my social life gets trimmed away. So that I can balance these 3 critical buckets, which is, am I doing what's best for my family? Am I doing what's best for Maple? And am I doing what's best for me? And I just keep trying to look at those 3 buckets as investment buckets that I need to be conscious that I'm investing in all 3 in, and not let any one at one particular time go to 0. But self-care is the only one that would ever potentially go to 0. I'm always 100% on my family. I'm always 100% on work. And I, unfortunately, am mentally tough enough that I know that I can turn me down a little bit in certain pockets. That's a really rough, like that was a kind of scatterbrained answer. I really struggle with it, I guess is the larger
Hmm.
question, the larger answer.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the piece too. That's part of the reckoning of the next generation, our generation as parents. I think that, before this, we'll have, the parents that like went out for dinner with their friends 3 days a week because the oldest sibling watched the kids. And then
Yeah.
our kids will have better balance socially and all of those other aspects. And I think that this is the non-renewable resource that we treat as a renewable resource in our own care of self in order to make all of these adjustments, changes, and things happen.
I will say that I think that there's a difference though. This is one thing that I think is a difference, which I'm learning, is I think, and I'm generalizing, so bear with me. I think mothers, from my understanding, the self-care is a problem because there's like guilt involved with taking time to themselves, which I don't think fathers actually see it that way. I think, at least for me, it's a bandwidth issue where I just don't have the time. Like it becomes it's the least prioritized use of my time, but when I'm doing it, I don't feel guilty, if that makes sense.
It makes complete sense. I would agree. I think that there's a lot of pressure and
Yeah.
showing up in the right way.
Yeah.
And, I don't know any woman that took up golf after she had kids. We'll put it that way.
Right. Yeah, right. Exactly. So I think that like that's the larger conversation is like,
Yeah.
why is it that the self-care isn't happening for moms or people who identify as women because of a guilt versus and bandwidth too. I mean, they're obviously
Hmm.
maxed out, but like while they're doing it, they aren't even able to like enjoy it from what I'm
Hmm.
understanding because they're like, I need to get home to my kids. Versus when I'm surfing, I don't feel this like weight of guilt of like I shouldn't be doing this right now. I feel very thankful that there's been a pocket of time that has opened up that is allowing me to do it. And I've always found that to be really, really interesting. I think my wife is pretty good at avoiding the guilt thing, but it is something that comes up in conversation a lot. The differences between her and I in terms of how we think about time allocation, and even with calls and relationships and other women in my life who work at Maple, my family members, my sister, whatever. There's a different burden that I would love to see over time erode. I think that would be
Hmm.
great for mothers to give themselves the grace as well. I think grace, again, I keep turning to it. I think there's a lack of grace that it's okay to step away. It's okay to work on you. It's okay to take some time to yourself. You don't have to feel bad about that. You don't have to feel like you're a less than mother because of that. That to me, I think would be like a real progressive step forward.
And I think we talk about like the other side of the equation. I think that that's a really great opportunity for dads as a whole, as a very general whole, to say, listen, when you go and do the thing, don't
Totally.
think about this, whether or not that happens, but like to be able to square up and say, hey, this is what we need to do.
Total. Not only that, but like, don't text your wife while she's out.
Yeah.
Like, put your phone down.
Yes.
Prove that you can do it. Don't be a muppet. Take care of your kids. Let your wife have, fuck's sake, 45 minutes to herself. Let her go get her nails done. Let her go to the gym. Let her whatever that thing is to de-stress and pull yourself together. The mistake and part of the guilt is triggered for sure by the partner serial text messaging or asking, where are you at? When are you coming
Yes.
home? What should I do in this scenario? Like, use ChatGPT, man. There's an answer there. Figure it out. And I just think that like that will also create less resentment because I can't think of a time ever I was golfing or surfing or at the gym and my wife's like, what should I be feeding Leander for lunch? What kind of snack does Solomon like? When are you coming home to take over? Just doesn't happen, right?
Right.
It doesn't happen. But like mom is out and dad's like, what should I feed these kids? It's like, dude, come on, you're better than that. You can figure it out. I think
Right.
that would go a really, really big long way.
Well, and that also gives dads a stronger platform to stand on to say, listen, I want to do this stuff and I want to figure this out.
Totally.
How do we do this? It's
Totally.
showing up in all of that.
Go create some memories with your kids, man. Make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich and take them to the park. Like you'll never regret it at the end of your life. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Well, I feel like you and I could probably talk about this forever and ever because we're both pretty mission aligned in our companies and
We are.
a lot of the ways that I think trying to move forward in a way that's not motherhood, fatherhood, siloed and get humans raising more humans onto the mix.
There's something if I can end it with this, there's something that I think that I thought about this a lot. I asked you last week, how did you like the dinner? And you said, I didn't have to cook. I didn't have to buy the groceries. I didn't have to cook. It's automatically an 8 out of 10. And at the end of the night, I asked you and you said it was a 10 out of 10 because the food was good. You know, I think I really like that. And why I like that was because, again, not to go back to gratitude, but I think that there was this like awareness that if all these things are just happening, like I'm good. No matter what the outcome is, I'm good. Right. And that is so applicable to so many pieces of our life and our relationship. Like, how can we create default 8 out of 10 days? Like, I really thought that a lot. Like, you showed up to a meal, didn't complain, didn't this, didn't. It was just like, I'm here. I don't have to do these things. By default, it's an 8 out of 10. And I was just like, damn, that is such a good outlook on life. And I think that like the movement of which we are participating in, it could be so accelerated if we find those baseline 8 out of 10s, right? I think that what's holding back is it starts at a 0 out of 10 and you're like, the service better be good. The food better be good. The wine better be good. The company better be good. There better be no traffic. We build in all these points of what it takes to be a 10 out of 10. Like, that's it. It's like, what are our 8 out of 10 things? Is there effort? Is there positive conversation taking place? Are a lot of different companies trying? Is your partner trying? If your partner is trying, both ways, by the way, I think that there's a lot of women out there, a lot of mothers out there that could also step up in their marriage too, right? There's a lot of marriages that it's a partnership. It's not a one-way street. Both people have to come together. That's oftentimes not talked about in the story. Partnership is participation from two. If we're all trying, if we're all moving the conversation forward, if we're all having healthy kids, if we're not, it's 8 out of 10s. And everything that's layered above that makes it a 10 out of 10.
It's just a bonus. It's just a bonus that I happened to like book a hotel room that ended up with a terrace. And I was like, what is this life? What am I doing here? I'm by myself. No one's crawling into bed with me. I'm like, this is, whatever. Whatever could happen.
Whatever can happen, right? And so it's like, but that is so applicable to so many things. And I wish everybody had the 8 out of 10 mentality. Oh man, it would just make life so much easier. I think life would be so much better if everyone took this 8 out of 10 mentality. Anyways, I wanted to tell you that afterwards, but I knew I was going on your podcast, so I wanted to bring it up on this call. And I know we're nearing end of time, but I had to squeeze it in.
I appreciate it because it's one of those things. Like if you've had a 0 out of 10 experience, what you were saying about the 8.5 billion people, if you've had a 0 out of 10 experience, like mental health, postpartum crash, everything, like you've had 0 out of 10 in your life.
Yep.
And it's not to say you live in that space, but to give that, to have that as a reference point. Like, I am here, I am safe, I am warm, I am fed. These people are interesting. This is like, what else do you want?
You're 8 out of 10. You're 8 out of 10. Yeah. That's it. But like, that's an insane thing to get to say. Like, it's insane to be like, by default, I'm waking up and I'm an 8 out of 10 for the day. Imagine how many people, I really genuinely wish people would take a deep breath and think about this. What is the number of people that are not going to have an 8 out of 10? It's absurdly high.
And is it not having an 8 out of 10 because of structural, systemic things going on? Or is it the expectation that all things would have to be an 8 out of 10 in whatever regard? Right? It's like, I don't know. I think any person that's worked in the service industry is automatically goes to a restaurant and they're like, I'm at least a 6. If I get to the table and somebody pours me a glass of water, I'm at least a 6.
Yeah. I just like, I don't know. I mean, we could talk about this forever, and I know we're talking in circles at this point, but anyways,
It's good. I love what you're doing with Maple. I love
thank
that
you.
you are also bringing in, you have this family innovation program that is
Yeah.
bringing other companies together that are aligned in the people that they are looking for and looking to help.
Yes.
I just think that it's rising tide, right? That is,
It's a rising tide.
we have to put all the rowboats together,
That's it.
and that's how we're
Yes.
going to get there.
Yes. That's exactly right. Because right now, as founders, we are the ones in the rowboats,
Yeah.
and I just don't believe I have the humility. I'm hubris enough to believe I could pull it off. I have the humility to know that we can't solve the mission of systematic generational change of easing parenthood as a single company.
Yeah.
It has to be a collective effort of people who believe that parents deserve better, who believe that parenting is at the end of the day your life's work. I've yet to ever see a single tombstone say CEO of company X.
Mm-hmm.
Obituaries are very rarely written by your colleagues. And we're just really on this mission, and I'm honored to get to participate in it alongside you.
Yeah, I think it's wonderful, and I do think that it's the see it. What is it? See it to be it moment.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let people know where they can find you and where they can find Maple and all of that.
My email is michael@growmaple.com. I'm always happy to answer questions. I'm at Michael Perry on all the social networks. Maple is at growmaple.com, and we are at Grow Maple on all the social network places. And you may not know it, you may not realize it, but if you're listening to this and you're a parent, I spend most of my day thinking about how to make your life better. So I appreciate what you're doing, and I'm honored to get to work for you in the humblest way possible.
So well said. Love it. Well, thank you for cracking the seal on fathers on the podcast.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for letting me crack the seal. And I am expecting to see another dad on here soon.
Yes.